So, IKEA doesn't have the best reputation online, especially amongst woodworkers and people who are interested in home decor. In this video, since I needed a table, I wanted to see if I could make one that's cheaper than IKEA and hopefully a lot better quality as well. So this is the space that I want to create the table for. I have a router and an extension lead here, and it just looks a bit stupid. My main concern with just putting a side table here is I didn't want it to be similar to like a cabinet or like your typical bedside locker, because I think it would just look weird next to this mid-century desk that I have here. So I wanted to create something that has like a similar style, more like an open-ended kind of shelf than like a typical cabinet that you would normally see in a side table. As well as that, I wanted to have a similar wood tone to the other furniture that I have in the living room and not be too out of place. So yeah, we're going to see if I can make something that's cheaper than the IKEA alternative. I didn't want to create a table similar to the other side tables where they had a cabinet or a small drawer, in fact. I wanted to keep it open, similar to these shelves that some of these other IKEA furniture have. I wanted it to not only suit the table that was currently there, but also try to mimic the tones and the woods that I have in my other furniture. And that is what I chose to go with. I chose to go with a real wood board instead of just an MDF plane. I did this not just for aesthetic's sake, but hopefully to try and make something that can last a lot longer than your typical plywood or MDF furniture. There's been a lot of other videos online where people are slating IKEA, talking about how bad the furniture is, how bad the quality is. There's always been cheap furniture online, but for whatever reason IKEA has always just been associated with cheap, shitty furniture. It's not even necessarily that the furniture itself is cheap, there's always been cheap alternatives to furniture. Mid-century furniture was essentially just a cheap alternative to Danish furniture, where they tried to mimic a similar style, but instead of making it out of hardwoods like beech, they would try to make it out of MDF or plywood and just apply a veneer over it. The problem is that not only is it a cheap alternative, it's also not even made out of wood or even manufactured wood these days. Some of their cheaper tables, which I'm not even going to try to beat on price, are made out of cardboard that's just been reinforced in a certain way. And props to IKEA for actually making something that can last a relatively long time, even though it's made out of cardboard. But it's just the same trend in stagflation that we see in every single industry, where companies are producing a product or a service that's of less quality for seemingly more money. I also had some dowels that were left over from another project that I decided to use. Even though I had these for free, I'm going to add an extra $2 for it on top of the original budget. Alright, so I'm not quite sure if the holes or markers where I marked out on the other board are accurate, so I'm just going to fill a load of ink on the ends of these and then touch it off the other board just so I can make sure that they're in the right location. This is like a good little trick. It'd be way better with chalk, but I don't have any chalk, unfortunately. And I didn't say it before, but the wood itself costs roughly around €25. Lumber is getting a lot more expensive, and I just picked this up because it was convenient and it was close to me. I definitely could have gotten a lot cheaper if I shopped around. Yep, that looks like a snug enough fit to me. This is going to turn out well, I think. Alright, so I did some holes to countersink the screws, and yeah, we should be good. I should be able to cover these up with like a little bit of a dowel or something at the end. Alright, just as I went to prop this up to put it on its side so I could screw in the other side, I actually kind of like the open side on one part of it, like just having one support on the far side and like having this open so that I can put stuff on the shelves. I think it's pretty stable as well. I mean, the top part sticking out is a bit stupid looking, but I mean that'll be covered with a plant anyway. I don't know, I kind of like it. Having like another little support in the middle would be pretty nice looking as well, but I want the bottom part for the router, so I don't know, might sleep on it. I wasn't expecting this, but yeah, I do like the look of it. It's very modern, very kind of Scandinavian style that you see with the IKEA furniture. I'll sleep on it, see what I think afterwards. So when the wood was properly sanded, I decided to finish it. I wanted to originally stain it similar to the table that I already had, so I used this teak stain that I had left over. This is not the best stain, and it didn't really apply properly to the pine. If I could go back, I probably would have just dyed the top coat that I normally use, using some sort of oil-based paint or something. After I stained it, I used the usual top coat that I normally do, which is a mixture of varnish, white spirits, and a little bit of linseed oil. I find this works really well. I think I originally got the idea from Ian Curtis, I think his name is, on YouTube. He does woodworking pieces and he talked about using this top coat mixture. Not only does the varnish produce a really tough top coat, but it also, the oil helps to seep into it, and the white spirits itself helps to spread it around a lot more. I really like the way the tone looks in my living room specifically. It really matches my current furniture that I have. So the table turned out pretty decently, I think. I mean, it suits its purpose. It goes well with the rest of the furniture in the room. It's not perfect, but for a budget table, it'll do. The lumber itself cost me around €25, which is a lot. I was definitely overcharged for the lumber, but it was planed, so can't really complain too much, I guess. Unfortunately, timber has just gone up in price everywhere you go. In terms of the hardware, I already had the dowels, so I didn't have to pay anything for them, but for the sake of argument, that combined with some of the screws will add on €2 for that. In terms of staining the top coat, I used a pre-mixed stain that I had made for another project before. I probably used maybe about €5 worth of stain and top coat. So I'm sure the breakdown is probably here or somewhere over here or something, but it came to roughly around €35, €35.50 I believe. I could have easily made this a lot cheaper if I used something like plywood, but I wanted it to be hardwood. I wanted it to reflect the other types of furniture that I had in the room. And it'll also last a lot longer than any of this manufactured MDF furniture that you'd normally get in Ikea or other hardware stores like that. So yeah, overall I'm happy with it, and I think we've succeeded in building something cheaper than Ikea.